This bread recipe should make 2 to 4 loaves depending on the size of your bread pans. To start, I add 3 cups of warm water to my Bosch mixer. You don't want this water to be too hot or it can kill off the yeast. Next, I add 2/3 of a cup of olive oil and follow that up with 2/3 of a cup of honey. I'm leaving the lid off of my Bosch mixer here so you guys can see, but just so you know, that's generally not a good idea because your ingredients can go flying out of the mixer. Next, I add 4 teaspoons of salt and 2 tablespoons of yeast. I also add 2 pastured eggs, and if you're using sunflower lecithin, I would add it at this point as well. I like to let this start mixing, and if I'm adding vital wheat gluten, I would add that in as well. Next, I start adding my flour. So one key to making a good fresh milled flour loaf is to not just dump all of the flour in at one time. You really want to let the dough knead for a while and see if it comes together, and then add more flour as needed. This recipe calls for about 8 cups of flour, so I usually like to start with about 6 cups and let it knead for a while before I add the last few cups in. I like to let my dough knead for about 7 to 10 minutes or until it reaches window pane, which I will show you in just a second. What you're seeing right now is what we call cleaning the bowl. So this is a really good sign that you are getting close to window pane when the dough is forming around the hook as it mixes. And eventually, gluten should be so well formed that it actually cleans the dough off the sides of the bowl. This doesn't have to be perfect, the bowl doesn't have to be perfectly clean, but it's just a really good sign that you're getting great gluten development, and you should definitely stop adding flour if you haven't yet. Sometimes it takes about 7 to 10 minutes for this to happen with fresh milled flour. And so that's why I always recommend starting with around 7 cups of the flour and then adding more in gradually, because you don't want to get a really, really dry loaf. All right, so here I've stopped my mixer and I'm looking at a piece of the dough to see if I can stretch it till it is literally see-through and I can see light through the other side, and I don't want it to rip. So you can see that as I was trying to stretch this dough to see if it was at window pane, the dough immediately ripped, which is a good sign that you need to keep kneading. Okay, here we are about 5 minutes later, and I am showing you guys what you are looking for with window pane. It's nice and stretchy and elastic, but as I'm stretching, it's not ripping or breaking. It's just stretching thin enough that I can literally see through the dough. Once you have that perfect window pane, it's time to transfer your dough to an oiled bowl for its first rise. Okay, if you have made it this far, it is finally time to shape our loaves. Fresh milled flour, just like sourdough, has a 2-part proofing period. The first part is what we call like a bulk ferment, where we have all of the dough just in one big blob in a bowl and let that rise for about 2 hours. When it comes to rise times, something to keep in mind is that yeast responds to heat and humidity. So if there is a lot of heat or humidity in the house, the bread will rise really quickly. If it's very cold, it's going to rise much slower. Typically, I let my fresh milled flour yeasted bread rise for about 2.5 hours during the winter. And during the summer, sometimes I only let it rise for about an hour. Key is that you want to let it rise till it's about doubled in size and the dough is workable and not sticky. The second rise is a little bit more flexible. Typically, I shape my loaves, put them into my bread pans, and then let them rise on top of the oven while the oven preheats. Sometimes this only takes about an hour, other times I let it go a little bit longer. The key with fresh milled flour loaves is you don't want them to get way too risen because they rise a lot in the oven as well. So I don't let the loaves rise till they're doubled in size. I would say maybe a 25% increase in size to 50% increase in size. And then I go ahead and put them in the oven and let them bake. I wanted to quickly touch on how I like to prepare my bread pans and the type of bread pans I use for my traditional sandwich loaves. So I really love a stainless steel bread pan. My entire kitchen, I tried to only use stainless steel or cast iron for cooking. I don't like to use anything with a coating, Teflon, or even some of the ceramic coatings that scrape off easily. So these stainless steel bread pans are one of my favorites. I will put the link in the description for these. And then I also love a cast iron bread pan as well. As far as lining the pans, a lot of people like to use parchment paper. If you do use parchment paper, I really recommend this brand if you care. It is an undyed parchment paper that doesn't release harmful chemicals while it's baking. But I actually prefer to just simply butter my pans. I just use a stick of butter, get in all the cracks, and make sure it's really well coated. I have had the best results with my bread not sticking from using just butter.
Here's my bread that has been rising for about 2 hours. Usually it is kind of overflowing the bowl, but today was a really cold day, so it didn't rise quite as high, but it is still perfect and ready to be shaped into loaves. Today I am making 3 regular whole wheat loaves, and then I'm going to turn 1 section into monkey bread. Some people prefer to have a really large loaf that has kind of that top that's spilling over and really fluffy, and I do love the look of those loaves, but they're just not quite as practical for making sandwiches for my small children. These loaves are a little bit smaller, but they are the perfect size for sandwiches. You could definitely measure your dough sections on a food scale to get them all perfectly the same size, but I am not super picky with this process. I just like to get it done and have a beautiful sandwich loaf. I will say one of the most important aspects is making sure you squish out any really large air bubbles because they can turn into gigantic holes. You can see as I'm rolling this up, I'm also kind of stretching and pulling it back. That just helps to eliminate those air pockets. Next, I just roll the ends under a little bit, and then I like to create a little surface tension on the top of the loaf by just gently squeezing the loaf and using the countertop to provide that surface tension. If your hands start to stick like mine were here, just add a little olive oil to your hands so that you don't mess up the top of your loaf. And now we're ready for these to do their second rise, and then it'll be time to bake. Here are my fresh flour loaves that I just pulled out of the oven. I like to always check the internal temperature with a thermometer. You want it to be around 180 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit in the center. If it's sourdough, I like it to be closer to 200. Then I always like to top the loaves with some melted butter, and just look at how delicious this looks. I really hope you guys enjoy this recipe. It is one of our favorites and it is so incredibly simple. So please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, happy baking.